your social media feed has been looking anything like mine in the past couple of weeks, I bet a lot of people have been talking about this book, Parable of the Sower. Watching the crisis of the fires in LA this January is something that I haven't been able to look away from. As a person who lives in California, very, very close to an open space, I see in Altadena and Pacific Palisades my neighborhood. If the wrong spark hit at the right time with the right winds, a disaster just like that could hit here. And I think that's what drew me to reading Parable of the Sower a second time right after the election. There are two core things that I want to talk about in regards to this book. The first is about community and how to find it. And the second is the concept of a go bag, a thing that often, as I have been talking with my friends after the election, many people I know don't have. And I want to help you prepare and have one of those things. So let's get into it. The first thing is we need to know who our neighbors are right now. We need to know who they are. We need to know their names. We need to be in proximity to them and figure out what different resources we want to share. Maybe that's driving your neighbor's kid to school one day. Maybe that is just checking in and seeing how everybody's doing. Those simple conversations can be huge in times of crisis. Next, a big thing about community is that we have to find routines that work to engage with it. I think too often it's really easy for us to sign up for things or like join a Discord server and then never check in on it. And I love to lurk, I'm not gonna lie, but community takes work from everyone involved. So it's not just something that's going to be automatic that we can reliably trust to be there. We can't just expect to be a passive observer to consume community. Community isn't something that is consumed. I think that's one of the most dangerous things that social media has done to us is we think that community means checking someone's stories. We think that community means just scrolling and seeing someone familiar on our feed. But that's not community. We're not engaged in a reciprocal nature with those people. We're not giving and taking. We're not listening and sharing our own stories. And I think that's why a lot of us feel so isolated right now. The other thing about community leads me to bring up this other book by Adrienne Maree Brown called Emergent Strategy. Adrienne Maree Brown takes lessons directly from Octavia Butler's writings and turns them into ideas that we can use to grow and change as people, to adapt to the world and to adapt to change in a way that works with nature rather than against it. My favorite lesson from this book is that small is all. So I think so often when we're in the age of social media, we think about our audience having to be this big number, or thinking about community is only good if it has big number, big presence, big, big, big. But when we think about actual, tangible, realistic change and impact, it can just be 3 or 4 people. It can start really small and focus on those small communities that feel really engaging to you. We have a sketchbook club over on my Discord server. It's totally free to join it. And that sketchbook club is amazing. People show up and share all kinds of things that they're working on. And the people who show up regularly are clearly invested in wanting to make that community space something special for them, something that hold them accountable for making time for their creativity despite the craziness that's going on in the world. Howdy, Editing Mel here. I just wanted to add a couple of things in regards to my take on this book, because it is technically a piece of dystopian fiction. However, the community aspect of this novel is the thing that makes me return to it over and over again when things look bleak, when things look bad. I think that there is a sense of hope that is derived from the way in which Lauren builds community in this book. The biggest lesson is that all you can trust is change, so the hope is fostered through the change and adapting to that change together. I have deep fears of the unknown and an almost unshakable sense of dread heading into the next half-decade. I'm not gonna lie about that. I'm a queer person, I'm non-binary, and it's really scary to even show up on the internet. But I'm not backing down from who I am, and I'm not going to obey in advance. Also, bigotry, hatred, those types of things, they're not welcome in my comment section. I know who I make my work for and who I build community for, and I want to make sure that I do it in a way that is as inclusive as possible and holds space for people with many different multitudes. And if you can go with that, great. If you can't, there's always the unsubscribe button. There are really scary things happening to us right in this very moment, from climate collapse to incredible social platform death. And I think there are also going to be a lot of terrifying policies yet to come. But community gives me hope. It's where we can actively work to slow down together, to gently persist and commit to our creativity. Despite the rise of AI, despite the feelings that our creativity is devalued in our culture, I refuse to believe that, because I think that creativity is a lifeline for a lot of us, probably you watching who chose to click on this video. And I think that our creativity is a thing that's going to keep us tethered to hope. And for some of us, it's because creativity is a spiritual practice and needs to be held and honored as such. Remember that the ways that we resource and support one another are the places in which we can best overcome tragedies, disasters, and loss. Community is the place where our bonds to one another allow us to move beyond sorrow and into hope. The last thing that I'll add is that you can find a link in the description to the Conscious Citizens LA Disaster Relief Masterlist. What I really like about this list is that it's full of places that you can both donate and also opportunities for volunteering online. So no matter where you are, you can support those impacted by the LA fires, even if you don't have any monetary support to give. The other big thing that I want to talk about in relation to this book is the go bag. Now, right after the election, I was calling all of my friends, especially my queer and trans friends in Missouri, and having conversations with them like, do you have a go bag? Are you ready to go at an instant? And what is your plan? And every single one of them said they don't have a go bag, or they don't have a plan in case things get bad. And it's not a matter of if things are going to get bad anymore, it's a matter of when. Big storms are getting worse. Disasters could hit us at any point. And I'm not trying to sound like a prepper here. I'm being honest about the state of the world. We are in unprecedented times. Every single day, our present moment is unprecedented. And so we need to be prepared for disasters when they strike. So the first thing that I did after rereading this is I, at a sketchbook club, started making sketches and thinking about the prompt I wrote for that month about resources and how to get resourced. And so I started making sketches of my go bag gear. And as I was sketching my gear, I realized that I had stuff missing. Now, that's because I camp, I backpack. I'm often pulling things out of my bag and forgetting what things aren't there. I realized I also did not have a comprehensive pack ready to go in case of an earthquake, in case of a fire. And so I kept hemming and hawing, going back and forth as to the design I wanted for the different sketches. And I ended up deciding on one in particular. And as I was working on this final version of a go bag zine that I'm going to be releasing next month, that's when the fires hit in LA. And I knew I had to do something with my knowledge, so I created a free Google Doc that's linked down below that just is a checklist. There's only one drawing in there of the tentative cover of the zine. So I created this list, and the goal was to simplify the ideas of the go bag into quick, easy, grab-and-go items, depending on how much time you had before you have to leave. So the first section is based on if you have 20 to 40 minutes to get out, what things you want to try to grab. It's okay if you don't have all of them. Perfection isn't the goal. The goal is to try and make sure that you have things that are going to allow you to survive. So I've got those there. Next is if you have 1 to 3 hours, if you're kind of unsure, you can grab those things in addition, and then the rest is extra stuff. Right now, in the era we're living in, a lot of people when they're fleeing a disaster are going to do so in a car, so you can bring more things. But like as seen in Lahaina and Maui last year, or this year in Pacific Palisades, people were stuck in traffic and the fires were burning down and they had to get out and walk. And so it's important to make sure that you have some of these most important things, the most essentials, in a bag that you can throw on your back and go. It's why I'm really glad that I have a wagon that fits my cat carriers in case for some horrible reason I have to throw all my cats in their cat carrier onto a wagon and walk along the highway. These are things that I can imagine because I read Parable of the Sower, And oddly, the horrors in that book make me feel a sense of comfort knowing that myself and my community would be able to navigate this because we're ready. Okay, so for the end of the video here, I am just going to take you through some of the sketches that I've made in preparation for creating this zine. I am hoping to have the zine out in early February, and I'm planning to donate the proceeds of the zine to folks who are still trying to rebuild after the LA fires. And what we see here is the original drawings I was making when thinking about this zine back in November when I reread Parable of the Sower. So I started drawing some of my gear, and when I was drawing my gear in this instance, this is when I realized that I had a lot of things missing. So then I worked on it a couple more times in additional sketchbook clubs. Sketchbook Club is a thing that I do on my Discord server that's totally free. So here's me like drawing my little generator and my little waterproof container with some of my documents in it. So I realized I wasn't necessarily a fan of how these were looking and was starting to question, like, do I want to do this way? Do I not want to do it that way? And then I said, okay, well, what if I paint them with gouache? So I used a little bit of gouache, but I think that the problem I was running into here is that the values were too vague, too ambiguous, and I didn't think that this would look really well photocopied, which is important for zine creation. So I went back to my trusty old Tombow brush pens to create this cover, and that's what you saw me drawing earlier. So I've got the N35, dark gray, almost this black color, and then this kind of medium gray, got kneaded eraser stuck to it, the N65. And that's this kind of medium. And this looks really, really good printed on a laser printer or photocopier. So then inside here, I have my little list of all the different pages that I want to make. And this is the water page. So I've got the little water bottle. I've got a Sawyer water filter. It's just the one that I tend to use. A little water hydration pack, which is a little lighter than a water bottle. Some little iodine tablets for filtering water or treating water, and then this big drum that I use that has a spigot for camping water, but this thing holds about 5 gallons, and I have an even bigger one that holds 10 gallons, so those are great to have. Next up, I've got the food that I've been thinking about, so the energy bar, the little tuna time, this is what everything looks like inked. I might add a couple more items here, but these are just general things to get an idea of what to grab from your pantry. Then clothing items. Something that I was learning when I was doing a bit of research for this is that you want to make sure that you wear cotton or wool shirts, especially if you're evacuating fire, because polyester, fleece, those types of things can actually melt to your skin if you were to get caught in any embers. So keep that in mind if you have some natural fiber clothes around, and then other things just to keep yourself warm, comfortable. Socks are a thing that I think people forget a lot. And then taking all these things and putting them in a dry bag, if you have one of those, or just a Ziploc bag. Reuse an old Ziploc bag, wash it out, use it, and throw your things in there. Next up, this one, I have a little piece of tracing paper here because I used some Neocolor pastels for this communication at the top. This is me just thinking about like different ways to communicate. Like, do you have a power brick for your phone, the cable to charge it, walkie-talkies if you have multiple vehicles, and maybe you want one of these NOAA radios. These are really cool. The one that I have here is solar powered, and I have a little flashlight on the end, and then this allows me to get updates on the weather situations directly from the NOAA. And then comfort items like books, art supplies, dye for playing games, cards, a yoga mat. I've got a few more things that I want to add here, and I think these are definitely things that people don't consider, but how to stay comfortable in that time. Next up, these are going to be like bathroom sanitation supplies. So I've got a mask, gloves, safety goggles, I've got paper towels and trash bags, things for your medication, your inhaler, like if you're like me and you have asthma, and then an extra set of glasses, duct tape, soap, hand sanitizer, and wipes to stay feeling clean. And this one is me, oh yeah, this is things I would add if I were driving in a car. So you can see the pencil drawings here. I've got my bedroll, a box of keepsakes, photo albums, a pot and a couple plates, a little battery pack, or this is a little jackery that I have, and the solar panels that power it. And then these are important essentials here. So I've got a folder with your documents, a wrench for turning off your utilities. I have this really great, actually it's sitting over here, this really great adjustable wrench, so you can change it to any size you want. And I think this is great because you want to turn the gas lines off to your house if there's an earthquake. Thing I learned recently that I need to make sure I do. Passports, your cash, in case credit card systems are down, make sure you have some cash there. Any other important paperwork like passwords that you want in like a little waterproof box. I just got this at Walmart in Arkansas when I was traveling, and it works great. This is a flashlight. I've got a headlamp, extra batteries for the headlamp. This is an old mints container, like an old like Altoids, right? Container that I turned into a little first aid kit. So tiny first aid, a little solar panel generator thing that you can use for charging your phone, a mask, a knife, some rope. I need to draw more rope. There's only a tiny bit there. First aid survival guide, pop-up lantern, ointment, towels, and bug spray. So things to consider for basic essentials. So I'm going to continue to illustrate the things that I have in the document. I might do a couple different versions of things because that's what you do when you're an artist. But yeah, if you want to know when the zine is going to be out, I am going to make an update over on my Discord server as well as on my Substack. So go sign up for those. Those are the best ways to stay in touch with me. Thanks so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate you being here. Leave me a comment if you related to any of these things. And if you want to, you can subscribe. And until next time, stay creative and find your own way to persistently bloom. See ya.